Okay, I have 10 o'clock, so I want to welcome all my fellow event planners. If you don't know me, my name is Kelsey Anderson, and I am the founder and managing director of Lynn David Events. I've been a corporate event planner for almost 15 years, and let me tell you, and I'm sure you can agree, 2020 has been one for the books. So I'm really excited to take a little bit of time and share and learn with all of you on how we can take better care of ourselves through emotional intelligence. And just to get things started, I want to make sure that everybody in Zoom is using the speaker view. So if you go up to the right-hand corner and you see either gallery view or speaker view, choose speaker view. You'll just have a better experience. The chat box is here, and so submit any questions you may have, comments. You know, we're event planners. We all have tons of experience. If you have an aha moment you want to share, please do. This is meant to be a conversation with all of us. And with that, I want to pass it off to my good friend and emotional intelligence expert and awesome keynote speaker, Rich Bracken.
Welcome, everyone. And I am, first of all, very grateful that you're here because it is a true indicator that you understand that you need to take care of yourselves, because I think that is the biggest thing that we face, is that we forget that we are our most important resource. So as busy as you all are and as tight as your schedules are, I can't thank you enough for taking this time today to take care of yourselves. And I want to serve you and have a conversation with you to better empower you to be able to do that. And so we're going to talk about some different elements of emotional intelligence and how you can leverage these tools and tricks so that you can take better care of yourself. You can be better at your job. You can be better at your life. So from a personal and a professional stance, emotional intelligence is going to give you everything that you possibly can need to succeed moving forward, because like as Kelsey mentioned, this has been a year that emotional intelligence can't get to us quick enough, and we can't leverage it enough because it has just been absolutely nuts. So I want to talk through how I can best take care of you through this information. So let's start this off by identifying stress in the workplace. And it's, this was not shocking to any of us, but when you think about the most stressful jobs, these jobs rank in the top 4. And so when you get to number 5, this isn't a surprise to us. It was a surprise when I shared it with a couple of individuals outside of the events industry, but event professional is the number 5 most stressful job in America. And what was striking to me, and take your own caveats on this as you will, but the first 4, if they make mistakes or if they get burnt out, there's some either catastrophic or even fatal repercussions of that. So this is not to be taken lightly in the sense that this is a very high stress industry. It's a very high stress job. So again, I can't thank you enough for understanding that you are stressed out, that you are pushed to the edge, and then this is what you need to get better holistically. Because in essence, you have been asked to give the disco ball experience. Now, whether that's a conference or a corporate event or a retreat, any kind of event, you're expected to give this disco ball, this entertainment, this gathering, this relief for everyone else. But are you taking care of yourself in that process as well? So this was pre-March of 2020. This was the expectation. Now, add on the expectation that you're the crystal ball person as well. So entertainment in the disco ball, education and knowledge and foresight in the crystal ball. So disco balls and crystal balls, that's a lot to take on. So stress to a top 10, a top 5 level prior to the pandemic, now it's gone even higher. So I recognize that, having been an event planner myself, I know how stressful the job is. I know how stressful events are. I know what that feels like. And now as a speaker, I work with event professionals all the time, obviously. And so there is a level of empathy that I have from a personal standpoint. And that's why we're here today, because I want to serve you all. Because ever since this happened, ever since the pandemic set in, there has been a radical change, a radical pivot to the expectation that you should know everything on top of all the other things that you should have known already. And so I want to talk about the ridiculous responsibility that's been put on the events industry since the pandemic. We all know it was strong before, but ever since then, it's become just abnormally high. And it's become so abnormally high that I had to make up some words that cover what you're expected to do, what's expected from your companies, from your clients. Everybody has these higher expectations because they're trying to figure things out, but they're looking to you to keep the business afloat, to keep the events afloat, to figure this all out. So the first word, Plan-Buoyant. And this is an event planner who can clearly predict the future, understanding when in-person events will be 100% safe again, because that's what everybody wants to know. When can we have in-person events? Because we all crave interaction. We crave being around people. We're social animals by nature. And so you are the keeper of that. So understanding that you're now being expected to be a Plan-Buoyant event planner, you're supposed to figure those things out. Second word, Law-Sultant. So this is an event planner that has strong legal knowledge to figure out like, hey, I still want to do an event, but I don't want to get in trouble because of it. So can you give me some legal guidance on how I can do my events and how I can serve my clients and get everybody together without falling into any kind of legal issues? And I want you to figure that out before I actually talk to my own attorney. So that would be great if you could kind of sort all those details out ahead of time. Thanks for that. I really appreciate it. So the third, Eventist. And that is a rare but expected status of an event planner who doubles as a trained medical professional. You're supposed to know and have insights and be in cahoots with the CDC to understand when things are going to be safe, how people can navigate these things and do things the correct way and keep people socially distanced and figure out all those elements to keep people as healthy as possible. These are all ridiculous things that you're already being asked to do a lot. Now you're being asked to do even more. And the final word, Immortal. No, I didn't make that word up. I'm not going to take credit for it, but it's another ridiculous title that you're meant to take on. You're meant to be immortal. You're meant to get to the point where you just understand everything. You're taking control of everything, that you're running the show and that you've got it all figured out because all these other individuals are counting on you. And we're not immortal. What you should be is just a badass human being. This is not lost on me. The fact that you are being expected to be perfect upon perfect because nobody else knows what's going on and nobody knows how to pivot to this. So you're having to learn new technology to balance all of these things, to balance expectations of your clients, of attendees, of speakers, of professionals, and you're trying to keep everything afloat. Today is the day that you strip that title away. You're not immortal, nor should you be expected to be. But what you can do is you can maximize your energy, you can maximize your personality, and you can maximize your effectiveness by taking excellent care of yourself. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Yes, they are superpowers. And to the point where people don't understand them, that they have to create words to talk about how super you all are. So I'm a big quote fan. And when I started diving into emotional intelligence years ago and became a speaker in this world, this was one of the quotes that I grabbed onto at the very beginning. And this really encompasses what emotional intelligence is to me. And it's really bringing awareness to your emotions so that you can take power back. Because how many days, especially in the last 8-9 months, how many days have we just felt out of control, that we just don't know what's going on, that we're just kind of thrown to the wind? You can start your day with really good hopes and dreams that you're going to have a great day. And then the phone rings, and then your email lights up, and then your text messages light up, and then you have a conference call that things shift and go crazy. So today is the day I'm going to give you these tools that you can manage that flow, that you can manage those days, because there's nothing worse, especially for those of us that have an event planning background or current status, to be out of control, to not know what's going on, and to feel like we're just hanging on for dear life, but we're trying to figure it out. And this group does a phenomenal job. Event professionals on the whole do a phenomenal job keeping control and driving things to where they need to get to. But at what risk? At what cost? At what burnout level are you doing that? So today we're going to talk about how you can maximize these things. So a couple different things you're going to walk away with today. You're going to understand how emotional intelligence works, what the foundation of it is, and how it works in various situations. I'm going to teach you how to be more emotionally intelligent, because unlike regular IQ, EQ can be increased. And the studies show that your IQ maxes out at 15, which for some people is really unfortunate. But your IQ is the same at 15 that it is at 50. Now you can learn things, but your true IQ is static at that point. But your EQ plays into your plasticity of your brain and your levels of increasing it. So you can increase your emotional intelligence, and I'm going to tell you how, both at work and personally. So there's a lot of things to walk away with here. And finally, I want to give you control back in your life. I want to give you pause. I want to give you less stress. I want to give you less anxiety. I want to give you more happiness, more time back, more ability to control what's going on. So those are the things that we're going to walk away from today. Now, what is EQ? There's many definitions, there's many different schools of thought on emotional intelligence. And the way I always look at it is that it's a dance. It's a dance with yourself and it's a dance with everybody else, because you come in contact with so many people, especially in this industry. You're working with so many different people of so many different backgrounds and so many different angles and agendas and things that they want to accomplish. So EQ helps you manage that dance, not only manage it, but also lead it. Because that is what we are meant to do. We are meant to lead that dance. And the more emotional intelligence you have, the more in control of that dance you can be. And you could be that lead dancer as opposed to just kind of falling to the wayside and being thrown to whatever comes your way. Now, I want to talk about briefly the 4 elements of EQ that I subscribe to. And Dr. Travis Bradberry has a phenomenal book that really turned me on to emotional intelligence called Emotional Intelligence 2.0. Phenomenal book, very applicable. I highly recommend it. I've bought way too many copies of it because it's just a fantastic book, and I want everybody to understand it. But today I want to talk about the 4 different elements that make up the foundation of emotional intelligence. Number 1 is self-awareness. And again, long definitions. I'm not a big fan of long definitions or lots of text on a slide, so I'm going to give you the short versions of them. Self-awareness is, how am I feeling? It's what your emotions are. It's recognizing how you feel. Emotional intelligence triggers what is setting you off in a positive or a negative way. Because, while we always talk about triggers in a negative sense, triggers can also be overly positive. You can get overly excited about something which maybe doesn't give you as much control or as much attention on what you need to focus on. So self-awareness is really, truly understanding how you feel and what you think and how things are really getting to you. And then once you understand your emotions, it's how are you reacting? What are you doing with those emotions? I mean, we all know at least one person in our lifetime that we've met that we consider a hothead. There's somebody that can't control their emotions, somebody that is not, able to relegate their emotions. They feel things and they react accordingly, or in a very knee-jerk reaction. And, maybe we're all guilty of that at some point. I know that I've been guilty of it as well on a variety of different emotions. But the higher your emotional intelligence, the stronger control you have. Because as we all know in the events industry, curveballs come quicker than they come at a professional baseball player. So the more curveballs you can address and manage and be able to hit those out of the park, the better off you're going to be. So understanding your emotions and then what you do with them is really your personal awareness and how you're managing your emotions. Now, it would be nice if we could just say, hey, look, I'm just going to take care of these 2 and then I'm good. But when you're interacting with other people, you got to bring in that social part of things. So your social competence is made up of these 2 factors coming forward. It's your social awareness. It's your ability to read other people. It's your ability to listen and actively listen and pay attention to body language and tone and emotion from other people. Especially in the virtual environment, that's become trickier because we've all experienced Zoom burnout. We've all experienced somebody not turning their video on, so it's harder to read the individual. And it's just a more difficult dynamic of environments. Communication is harder than it's ever been, even though it's been more convenient than it's ever been. So really tuning in and doing more active listening, asking more questions. Tell me more about that. Tell me more about how you got to that point. Because if you're not picking up on true positivity, there's going to be a question to be asked. So asking those more probing questions will help you develop your relationship and help you enhance your communication. And then finally, all of this wrapped into one is your relationship management. If you think about any individual that you come in contact with, whether it's a teammate, a colleague, a client, a spouse, a child, anybody that you come in contact with, you have a relationship that you build with them, and that it ebbs and flows based off of what's going on. So the more you have control over your emotions and the more you manage those correctly, and the more you also are tuning into what other people are doing, saying, thinking, feeling, that relationship management goes up. You build credibility, you build more positivity, you have better relationships. And so it's really key to tune into those things and really look at your different relationships across the board and where you can raise those a little bit. Now, evaluating your relationships is a key part of it, but also understanding like, okay, why is that relationship not as strong as this relationship? What can I do to enhance it? So diving into those is really key to enhancing your emotions and your relationships. Now, a couple of different percentages that I want to talk about here when we talk about emotional intelligence. Number one is 58%, and that is the amount of responsibility that emotional intelligence has on your performance. So if you think about all the things you know, all the intelligence you have about the events industry, all the things you've learned and all the things you're going to be learning because you're learning a ton of things with, producing and virtual environments and different platforms and different tools and bells and whistles and all these things that you're now having to go learn additional to what you already know, because that's just the expectation. You're supposed to be the expert about everything. Now that is 42% of how your performance is going to be ranked. 58% is how you are managing those things, how you're managing your emotions. Because again, we've all known very smart people that maybe aren't the best communicators. They are not the best as far as managing their emotions or managing their relationships. That is really important when it comes to managing your professional career, your personal life. All of those things are really tied into emotional intelligence. And 90% of top performers have a high EQ. So it's not lost. Like there's a big gap between an average performer and a top performer. And 90% of that gap is made up of emotional intelligence. Again, you can be a very talented individual. You all can know the same thing. But if I have a higher emotional intelligence, or you have a higher emotional intelligence, these other individuals don't stand a chance as far as the comparison, because they're not going to be as good in communication with you. They're not going to be as good managing the relationships and their emotions. So this is why emotional intelligence is so important. Now, information is great, but unless you can make it actionable, it really is useless. So I want to give you some scenarios to walk through the different elements of emotional intelligence and how you can use those in daily interaction. Now, when we talk about self-awareness, we don't want to be this rocket that just fires off into the sky. We want to make sure that we're understanding our emotions and we're buying into them. So I want to give you for each of these an issue, so a scenario that comes up, an exercise that you can use to manage that emotion or manage that element, and then an outcome that you can expect to do to that. So issue number one, person is battling the daily roller coaster of emotions with no control. We're getting in the car, we're going up that first hill, we're hearing the click, 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 and then you crest over that first hill, and then you're off to the races. And maybe that's at 7:30 in the morning. Maybe that's at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you're just holding on for dear life. And then you get to 6 o'clock that night, and you sit down and you go, oh God, what happened? Maybe it was a fun ride, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was terrifying. And I love roller coasters to an extent, but there are some that terrify me. So some may be good and some may be bad. But when you get to the end of that ride, how are you feeling? Understanding that you can control that emotion through that ride, or not even be on a roller coaster because you're controlling your emotions, is much better. The most impactful thing that you can do with this is daily journaling, and here's why. And this is something that you can do at the end of the day. You can keep a document open on your desk site or your desktop, or you can use your phone to record some verbal journal input. This is something that I started doing that it was a game changer for me. And everybody that I consult and speak to, this has been the one thing that comes back with. There was another one that I'm going to get to here in just a second, but daily journaling has been a big, big game changer. So when you think about the day, every time you have something that impacts you, we consider that a trigger. So again, whether it's a positive or a negative trigger, so whether it's a certain client or a certain individual or a certain way somebody talks to you, it could be a song, it could be anything. Something is going to trigger you throughout the day. So if you notice a big change in your behavior, positive or negative, I would consider that something that is journalable, which I probably just made up that word too. I just verbed it. But that or made an adjective. I wasn't good in English, so we'll skip past all the formalities. But make sure that you're identifying what that is. So if somebody calls you and it was a bad scenario, once you get off that call, capture why. Was it what they said to you or how they said it? How do you feel afterwards? What was the core reason that your emotion changed? Once you start identifying those patterns, you can change your behavior to those. You can change your reaction to those. And I've had many a scenario where I've worked with somebody that just either got under my skin or made me feel negative about myself, made me just feel bad. But I started changing the reaction once I realized that individual was the one that was changing my day. So by understanding and identifying those emotions and those triggers, you're taking control back on a daily basis. You're not even getting on that roller coaster, as much fun as it may be. You're taking more control back because you're identifying where those gaps and vulnerabilities are. Self-management is another element of this. So let's talk about a scenario here. You're experiencing burnout and undue stress. I would say raise your hand and say, have you experienced burnout or stress? If not in the last month or 9 months, ever, right? We all have. So it's all about managing that burnout, managing that stress. This is one of the key things, and this is always the topic that I talk about, and then I present in this keynote that I say, and people are like, "Oh yeah, sure, right." This is the time that I give you permission to do what you need to do to take care of yourself with this, setting boundaries and giving yourself permission for self-care, because we are in a service mentality. Event planners we want to serve our clients, we want to create the experience, we want to do all the things for other people. But we forget about ourselves. We forget how necessary it is to replenish ourselves, to take care of ourselves, and to protect our energy. I always talk about there's an emotional bank account that you wake up with every single day. And I don't know how many checks you're writing. I don't know how many loans you're giving out with your emotional bank account. But if you're not replenishing that, or you're not protecting that and not giving out every loan that people come to you for, you're going to wind up with more emotion in the bank at the end of the day than you started with, because you're taking care of yourself. Now, when I say set boundaries, this is something that everybody can do. You've set the boundary to be here today, so you've already done it. So don't think you can't do it, because you're doing it right now. And you shouldn't feel guilty about it, because you're doing what you need to do to, one, set boundaries, and two, enhance your self-care. So congratulations, you've just debunked your own doubt. This is where you start leveraging that moving forward. Block time on your calendar. Do things you need to do to take care of yourself. If you need a workout, if you need a walk, it's okay to be unavailable for 10 minutes. It's okay to take care of yourself for 15 minutes. It's okay to check out at the end of the day and not check your email all night long. It's okay. Set those expectations. I know that there's probably some eye rolls going on, like, yeah, right, my clients are so demanding, I can't do that. You know what? My favorite trick, set your out of office assistant. So if somebody pings you, if you want to have a family night, say, you know what? I'm spending time with my family this evening and I am unavailable. I will be available at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning or 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. I'm happy to return your phone call or your email at that time. I have done that so many times, and never once have I gotten any kind of negative feedback. What I have gotten are people saying, that's a great idea. I need to do that more often. So we're all in the same boat together. We're trying to manage our boundaries, and we're trying to do the things to take care of ourselves. So be the one that leads that charge. This reduces your stress. Like, if you stop and think about right now, not giving every time somebody takes from you or tries to take from you, that's got to give you some immediate reprieve. You've got to feel better, because we give so much all the time. So this will reduce your stress. It'll give you control back. Setting those boundaries is, like I said, it's a game changer as far as taking control back in your life. Now, social awareness, this is tricky, because you've really got to deal with other people. You know, you've got to interact. You know, that's just part of our industry, part of life, part of, I don't care how many more months we're in lockdowns or social distancing. Social awareness is going to be a key factor in what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. And with this, there are times that we maybe aren't leading the way we should. You know, we are experts at what we do. We are experts at what we know. But a lot of times we're letting people tell us what we should do. And so you're just doing the tactical things. You know, somebody may come to you, and I will frankly say, in all my years as a consultant and a speaker, I've heard people come to me with some really ridiculous ideas. But I'm a servant leader. I have a servant mentality. And for a long time, I just was like, oh, okay, we'll figure it out. And maybe it wasn't the best idea. And inside, because of what I knew from an expertise standpoint, I knew that there was a better option. I knew that there was a better path, but I felt compelled to give in to the tactical need that I needed to serve, even though I didn't agree with what was going on. And I was the expert in the conversation. So again, active listening and soliciting feedback is key here, because if you ask the person, so if somebody comes to you with an idea, what's the first thing you say? Okay, sure, we'll figure it out. But if you say, tell me more about that. Tell me more about what you're trying to do here. What's your goal? What is the main accomplishment you're trying to get to? Again, keep in mind, you're the expert in the conversation when it comes to events. So maybe there is a better route, and maybe there is something else. And my grandfather, who God knows was the most fantastic speaker and salesman I've ever met in my entire life, he always said, let it be their idea. And his tactic that he taught me was, okay, so if you come to me with idea 1 and it's not a great idea, but idea 2 is what I would highly recommend. Say, okay, great. You could do that. Or here's another option. And this is what this would do for you. And this is how you would get to success through option number 2. And then let them choose. Now, if they're stuck on number 1, still use your guidance. Use your ability to lead that conversation and use your ability to figure out what the best route to success, even through a bad idea, could be. But this is where you really take your power back by soliciting that feedback and understanding and being more of an active listener. Again, you're going to get higher engagement with your leadership, with your team, asking questions of your team and figuring out what they think. Because so many times we just take this, we get the feedback from our clients or our leadership, and we go and do the things. And then we go to our team and say, this, you need to do this, and you need to do this, and you need to do this, and you need to do this. Take a few minutes, present the plan, and then ask for feedback. That is going to get you better engagement with your team. Your team members are going to feel more involved. And when you feel more involved, you work harder, you work to a higher level of efficiency and effectiveness, but you are also empowering your team to be better. You're giving them those coachable moments as well. And finally, relationship management. This is so hard because, this is a control industry. We are trying to lead, we are trying to determine the path. And sometimes we hold on too tight. We hold on to that way too tight, and we don't have the same impact that we think we're having. Now, you may be a great delegator and a great manager and all of these things, but you're not having the impact that you probably think you are. Again, engage and have those abilities, have those conversations and give permission to other people to share their ideas and to share their feedback and to share what they think would be the best idea, whether it's a client, a leader, or specifically your team as well. But give them the permission. Don't take it from them. Give them the ability to express themselves. And the more you do that, you're going to have better relationships and stronger trust with your team. Think about any time that you've worked under somebody who gave you the ability to make a decision. You feel empowered and you trust them more because you know that there is a two-way street of respect. So be that person that does the same thing. Don't be the individual that is a one-way. I'm giving, this is what you're going to do. This is how you're going to think. This is the route that we're going to go. Because the more you engage, the better relationships you develop and the more trust you develop, you're going to have a more impactful team. You're going to have more impactful events. You're going to come up with better ideas to keep the ball moving. Because again, and going back to the very beginning, you're expected to lead this. You're expected to figure this all out. And if you think you're going to do it by yourself, as much as I respect your abilities, we can't do these things by ourselves. So develop that trust, develop those relationships, and I promise you things will get tremendously better. Now, all of this is great. And now we're having those aha moments of what we can do better. And, this would be a great way to do this. But I want to give you ways that you can manage your EQ, that you can increase your EQ, because as I mentioned, this is something that you have control over. You can do what you need to do to flex your emotional intelligence on a daily basis. I liken it to exercising. The more you exercise, even if it's small increments, even if you spend 5 minutes stretching or doing some yoga poses, you're improving your health. Emotional intelligence is the exact same way. Take one small win, build momentum on that. So there are numerous ways that you can increase your emotional intelligence, both professionally and personally. And these are my favorites from a professional standpoint. I mentioned earlier, blocking time on your calendar, explaining your decision-making, because again, high turn, high pressure, high involvement, high detail scenarios that we're all involved in at all times. But if you stop for a couple of seconds and say, we're going to do this and here's why. Again, put yourself in the shoes of the individuals you're communicating with. Would you want that extra step? Even it may take 30 seconds, but that 30 seconds does tremendous increases into your relationships with your team, with your clients, with your colleagues, because you're taking the extra step as opposed to saying, this is what we're doing and this is, go. And this is when it's due by. Explaining that decision-making goes a long way into giving people an understanding of how you think, but it also gives them the chance to understand that it's a two-way street of communication, that they can give that feedback as well. Setting aside time for problem solving. Again, I keep asking you to give time to yourself, and I know that seems such an uphill battle or a frank impossibility. You have time. If you do a daily time edit, I audit my time all the time. So if I look at the end of my day, what did I spend my day on? Because our days get so crazy, especially in this virtual environment. It seems like Groundhog Day every single day, right? So if you're going through your day and you're just sometimes going through the motions, and maybe you need a brain break, and you're spending, what you think is going to be 2 minutes, and then 20 minutes later, you've been on social media and you're like, oh, I got to get back to work. There's 18 minutes of time that you've lost. But if you go back at the end of the day and audit your day and say, okay, where did I spend my time? What did I do? Where was I effective? Where was I ineffective? Where were times that I didn't feel like I was getting things accomplished? Where did I blow off time? Where could I have been more efficient? Again, not to put pressure on yourself, but to say, oh, I actually do have an extra 10 minutes that I can set aside for problem solving, or I can shift things in my schedule so that I can free up 30 minutes at the end of the week at 8 o'clock in the morning to sit down with some good music and a cup of coffee and go through my schedule, go through my tasks, go through my projects, do an event recap. Where could I have been better? Where could my team have been better? Where could the event have been better? But if you're rolling from one thing to the next, you're never going to solve those problems. You're never going to figure out those efficiencies. You're just going to be surviving and floating. So take the time. I promise you, dedicating that time and finding the time in your schedule to figure those problems out, to find your efficiencies, and to continue to improve will do absolute wonders for you. Because again, you're taking control back. You're improving on time that you didn't think you had. It is, I can't stress how important this is. But again, dedicate that time to yourself. Your time is yours. You're loaning out your time to others when they ask it of you. So if you feel that you're giving your time to everyone, you're your most important resource. And unless you're taking care of yourself and giving yourself that time to do the right things, you're not going to be able to serve your clients, your family, your colleagues, anybody as best as you possibly can. So again, I can't stress enough how much you need to dedicate time to yourself. So these are all the Outlook calendar, efficiency apps, all the professional things. But let's talk about some fun stuff. These, balloons got to make you feel instantly better. I'll take a blue sky any day. But all of these things, when I talk about the little things you can do on a daily basis, your personal investment in your emotional intelligence will not only help your personal life, your family life, your relationships, they will help your professional life as well. They will benefit you tremendously, because who doesn't feel more effective at work when they're happier personally? Everybody does. So any of these things done in small increments, and as Kelsey will know, and anybody that knows me for 2.5 seconds, I'm a music freak. Like, I have way too many playlists. I have way too many songs. I mean, I used to be a DJ for about 25 years. So I have a ridiculous compilation. Like, if you name us, you can hum a song to me for 5 seconds and I'll know what it is, because that's just what I do. I was wired that way. It's weird. But what I say here is that use music. If you like music at all, which if you don't like music, that's a rarity, and I'm sorry for that. Maybe we can have a conversation offline, but use music to your advantage. Set up some Spotify playlists. Put good mood music in there. I have a playlist for every mood I could possibly be in. If I'm frustrated, I have one for that. If I'm sad, I have one for that. If I'm stressed, I have one for that. If I need to focus, I have one for that. Even 5 minutes. 5 minutes, one song can train you to turn your day around like that. Taking that time to do that. I am more effective when I'm working with some really ambient background music. I figured that out because I took the small increments to try it, and now it's become a habit. And now I have that time to block out. Giving gratitude. How easy is that? Be thankful for what you've got. That should enhance your happiness immediately. And it makes you feel better about yourself, and your self-awareness goes up, and your self-management goes up. Meditation is something that I have incorporated for the last 5 years on a daily basis, and it is tremendously valuable. 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening, 5 minutes over lunch, just to take a deep breath, close my eyes, focus on what I need. That lunchtime meditation of 5 minutes, as the day just starts cascading and it starts going downhill really quick, that 5 minutes at lunch allows me to say, okay, where am I at? What do I need? And how do I take control back before this gets out of control and becomes the gigantic snowball rolling down the hill? What can I do to stop that from happening? How can I take that control back? Any of these are going to be fantastic. Again, all of these seem like luxuries, and if they seem like luxuries, It means you're not managing your time as well as you possibly can be. Take care of yourself. Give yourself permission to do that. Give your team permission to do that, because they're probably just as burnt out as you are. So give that permission to yourself and to others to do these things. It's really, I can't stress enough, especially with the mental health struggle that's going on in the pandemic. Take the time. And that's why I'm here today talking to you all, because you're out in front of this. You're out in front of the expectations of what this should look like. I mean, there are lots of, the medical professionals and other individuals that are trying to manage the pandemic, but from a large scale responsibility, event planners are out in front. And there are a lot of people looking to you to say, help me figure this out, or you should know the solution to the problems, or you should know how to get my clients more engaged on a virtual event. Maybe they don't need to be engaged. Maybe they just need to be entertained, because your clients are on Zooms all day long like you are. So maybe they just need to feel something different. Maybe they just need to laugh. God, I mean, we all need to laugh more. So if you can change that dynamic, that does so much for you. It does so much for you personally. It does so much for you professionally. And it brings a higher value to your organization, because you're tapping into what is truly needed, as opposed to, I need metrics and I need leads and I need this. If you make people laugh, they will love you, and they will fall in love with your organization. They'll fall in love with your event. They'll fall in love with your company. Make them feel good. That is the most important thing. If they need to engage, great, figure that out. But the most important thing is they need to feel taken care of. And as long as you're taking care of yourself, you can convey that to them as well. So it's so important to take care of these things. And again, I'm a quote guy. And so this is really, I believe in this wholeheartedly, because you need to be true to yourself. It's understandable that you have just been doing what you need to do to take care of what needs to be taken care of. And you've probably just been flying through these last 9 months. And even before then, just taking care of like the details. And I got to get things done, and I got to get the project taken care of, and I got to get all the things arranged. But you have maybe not taken as good a care of yourself as you possibly can. This is the time you start. And this is the time that you see your value, your happiness grow exponentially, because you've now realized, hey, this is my life too. This is my energy. This is my emotional bank account. I have to take care of these, because this is the most important starting point that I will ever have for my professional relationships and my personal relationships. So if you can be true to yourself, take care of yourself, take better care of yourself, and do the things to add to yourself, this is where your genuine, true abilities come through. And so again, I'm giving you permission today to start implementing these, to start taking care of yourself, to start setting the boundaries, to start implementing the little things to enhance your energy and enhance your mood. Because if you don't, nobody's going to do it for you. And I'm always a big fan of big dreams. Again, some of these things may be radical changes to your daily routine. They may be radical changes to your mentality. But if you start small and start adding in those little things, the ability to say, here I am now, I'm burnt out, I'm stressed, like I have more boxes of wine than I had moving boxes the last time I moved. Like that is where we really need to focus on, how am I now? And how do I want to be? Don't be afraid to say, I want to be the most effective, emotionally intelligent event planner, leader, husband, wife, child, sister, husband, anything. Identify what that is, and don't be afraid to be too big with it. And then establish where you are now. Those little increments will get you there. That behavior change will get you there. That momentum that you build will get you there. So don't be afraid to dream that optimum image of yourself, and pursue those things. Find out what you need. Be very honest with yourself. Be very honest with your team. Encourage this behavior, because you're going to burn out if you're not already. If you're not taking care of yourself, you will burn out. If you're not there, if your gas tank has hit that light button, it's now time to start replenishing. It's now time to start putting back into you to be the most effective individual that you can be. And through these activities, and I'm going to have some things to help follow up on those later on. We're going to send some infographics that have some of these key tips and tricks to remind you that you are your most valuable resource, and you are even more effective when you take care of yourself. So doing these things, taking care of yourself, will do nothing but benefit you. And now when I think about event planners, I think about conductors. This is Imar Noon. She is, and I was thinking about this metaphor, just like comparing event planners to conductors. As you can see on the left, this woman's intense, and she is phenomenal. She is also the first woman that ever conducted the Oscars. In the 82-year history when she did it, she was the first woman to ever conduct the Oscars. And she is the most humble, balanced individual. I've watched a couple of interviews with her. She's fantastic. I highly recommend looking her up. But she is what I envision as what you're going to be: in control, leading and guiding individuals, being not only guiding your team, but guiding your executives, guiding your clients. You are the conductor. You are in control. And you are balanced, because you can have the intensity, like the picture on the left has got to be day of the event, right? Where you're in it. This is what's going on. You've got your headset, flying off the side of your head, and you've got your stick in the air, and you're driving things. But there is a balance there, and you can be this way, and you can be effective in this way by taking care of the image on the right. That balance, that calm, that replenished individual. Her name is Imar Noon. I saw a question pop up in the chat, and I'll spell it out here in just a second. Imar Noon. She's phenomenal. So please look her up. But this is what I want for you. I want you to feel in control. I want you to feel like you're guiding with this enthusiasm and this intensity, but a positive intensity, because that's the way, when you watch videos of her, that's what she's got. She's got this big smile on her face, and she's in it. And that's what I want you to be. I don't want you to be burnt out and just, holding on for dear life just to get through the event so that you can mark that one off the list and move on to the next one. Go into it with a positive frame of mind, with a full emotional bank account, a full tank of energy, and a full tank of balance. And you can have these things, and you can have this effectiveness, and you can be that individual that leads effectively by taking better care of yourself. So let's chat. If you have questions, if you have anything that you have more questions about, or you have a scenario, I appreciate the scenarios and the questions that were sent ahead of time, and I've got a few of those to talk to. But if you have specific questions that you would like to ask based off of what I've shared today, please drop them in the chat. I'm going to drop Imar's name in here because it is a little bit of a tricky spelling. She is Irish, which is very close to my heart because of my heritage. But she's amazing. Look her up on YouTube. She's got some great videos. But I am here to serve you all today, tomorrow, moving forward, whatever I can do to help you all out. So if you have questions, please drop them in the chat. I've got a couple that I can turn to, but wanted to open the floor for anybody that has anything right now.
I saw a question come in, Rich, about you were talking about triggers, and I think one thing that people can all relate to is social media triggers. It does become such a time suck when you're looking down at your phone and all of a sudden 20 minutes have gone by. But also in a year with, different political views, an election year, people living their lives differently during a pandemic. Like, do you have any tips on how people can protect ourselves through social media?
Sure. So the first thing I would say here is that you really need to make sure whoever you're following, whatever accounts you're following. I did a news segment on this a little while back where I talked about, it was back when I was addicted to Marie Kondo and purging and finding joy, like the things that spark joy. So I purged all my social media lists, and I keep using the words game changer, but it was a game changer for me because I had people on there that I felt like I had to, almost like a social obligation. Or that I felt like, I'll just leave them on there. They'll be fine. But what I found was that individuals, especially this year, are polarizing. And it's tough because you get into it and you're trained now. And if you haven't watched The Social Dilemma, it's an eye-opening documentary. I highly encourage watching it. But it really is interesting how things go. So one, set a timer for yourself. Because, like the question said, you can get down the rabbit hole really quickly. And I've been there numerous times where I'm like, I need a 1 minute, 2 minute break. I'm just going to pop on Instagram, or I'm going to pop on Twitter. And then there I am 20 minutes later going, what the hell are they thinking? And so you get into those traps. So protect your energy, protect your time again. So purge your list, make sure that you're following people that not just like, I'm just going to follow people that agree with me. You can take that one way or the other, but I really focus on the people that bring me joy, that inspire me, that bring positivity to my life, because there's plenty of areas that your energy can be sucked from, that your negativity triggers can be enacted. So make sure that you're purging your list, and make sure that you have the right people on there. Set a timer for yourself, and be aware of what you're reading, be aware of what you're feeling. So if you read an article and you start feeling a certain way, or you start that self-talk, oh well, this person is in charge of this company or doing this event and they look like they're doing a great job, maybe I'm not doing such a great job. Stop it, because you don't know the full story. Social media, while it's a beautiful thing and it has brought so many people together, it has also done more damage to our imposter syndrome capabilities and our potential, but it's also done a lot of damage to our self-care and our mental health. So be really aware and be very careful about that, because once you start negatively talking, put your phone down, put it down, cleanse that thought, and go back to, and I laugh because I'm a big Saturday Night Live fan too, the Stuart Smalley back in the day, where it was, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. If you've got to do that, do it. I've done it before, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. But it brings me back, because I start thinking, oh, well, this speaker's doing this, or this person's doing this, or they got cited in this, and I'm just not doing what I need to be doing. I'm doing great. I'm doing fine. I'm impacting people, and I'm making people feel better about themselves, and I'm giving people permission and power to do better for their lives. They've got their own journey. So really be mindful of the self-talk that starts creeping in when you're on social media. I had the other question too, and I touched on it earlier, the stress and the challenge of interactivity on events. This is really like, I get it, because businesses, clients, either if you're within an organization or you're working with clients as a third party planner, clients want interaction. They feel like they have to have their clients on every call. They have to be engaged, and you have to have your interactivity scores, and people have to be just enthralled with what's going on. And what you're asking people to do is do something that they've been doing all day long. And that is be on Zoom or be in a virtual event. And again, like I talked about, like that, I understand that that's the goal, because they want to drive business, they want to drive leads, they want to create more people in the sales funnel. I get it. There is that element, but I go back to the fact that I've worked with numerous people and consulting on that same fact. Like sometimes it's what it is that you just need to entertain, because people are like, well, I've got to have an event that is engaging, has a great speaker, has great polls, has a great interactive Zoom breakout session, is entertaining for kids. I want to make sure that they bring their families into this. And sometimes it's not the reality. Sometimes you just need to focus on the basic core thing. And don't be afraid to also ask the attendees what they want. Send out a pre-event poll, or send out something with the invitation and say, look, this is going to be for you. Tell us what your main goal for this, or what is something that you need. And it doesn't necessarily have to be related to the topic. You can just say, what do you need right now in general? Like, I mean, how if somebody came to you, and I'm doing it right now to all of you, like, what do you need? What do you need at all? If you just need a virtual hug, if you need, just permission to be better, like just understanding that the people have personal needs as well. They have energy needs just like we do. So don't be afraid to add in that additional human element, because that is the one thing that this pandemic has taught us, and the virtual environment has taught us, is that we're all human, and that we all have ups and downs and crazy backgrounds. And, a lot of us have kids that are going to come busting in the door during a meeting. Like I've had it happen numerous times, and you just roll with it, because it's just part of what this is. But instead of saying we have to have speakers that engage, or clients need to be engaged, and we need to have really effective breakout rooms, just come back and say, what do our attendees need? Do they just need information? Do they need to laugh? Do they need to feel good about themselves? Do they need to understand that it's okay? Figure those things out, because not many people are paying attention to that. They're trying to cram information. They're trying to cram panels, and they're trying to cram all these things down people's throat. And people are tired. People are tired of ingesting. And sometimes they just need hey, we're going to do 30 minutes, and we're going to have, a guest speaker come in to help you feel better about what's going on. That could do wonders for your client base.
Got another question coming in from Melinda. Any tips for rebounding from hosting an event during the pandemic? It seems to take longer to recover since so much more energy is invested.
Absolutely, Melinda. That's a great question, and I appreciate you saying that. What I will say is that, even as a speaker, it's there are times where it's exhausting. There are times I get off of keynotes and I'm spent, and I don't have anything in my tank because I've invested so much, because I'm what they consider a high sensitive person, which, yes, it makes me cry at the notebook harder, but it makes me somebody that's more engaged in the energy of my audiences, and I expend more sincere energy because of that status. And so I understand that depletion after an event, because there's a lot going into it. There's the energy that you're putting into it, but also you're using your brain in more ways than you've ever used them before with events. So I highly encourage to say, okay, here's the thing. So the event is today and it ends at 3:00. 3:00, set your out of office. I'm going to be unavailable, or 3:30 if you need to do some post-event stuff. 3:30 on, block that ahead of time, because when you book that event, this is when it's going to be. And if you know when it's going to end, you know that you build in like 30 minutes of follow-up and sending out emails and whatever you got to do. So 3:30, 3:45, out of office. I'm going to be unavailable for the rest of the day. Go for a walk. Go do some yoga. Go sit and stare at the wall, whatever you need. But block the time to take care of yourself, because again, what happens is that we feel like we have to go on to the next thing. It's on to the next one every single time. Okay, I got done with this event. I'm done. I put it behind me. Now what? So if you're not pausing to say, I gotta take care of myself, I gotta replenish myself, I've got to do those things, then you're missing the opportunity. So the rebound will come stronger and be easier for you if you block that time to say, this is me. This is my me time. My gas tank is getting empty right here. It's starting to fill back up here. And don't apologize for that, because nobody else would. And nobody else is going to say, hey, you should go take the rest of the day off when you're done with the event. Go for a walk, go spend time with your kids, go spend time with your spouse or your boyfriend or your girlfriend. Don't expect somebody else to do that for you. Do it for yourself. And don't apologize for it, because you're expending a lot for a lot of people. And you're one person that needs to take best care of themselves.
I had seen an email come in before this event about empathy and just thinking about how everybody is dealing with different struggles during this time. And I think as event planners and in this industry, we like to connect with others. And we've seen so many of our colleagues in the industry be furloughed or laid off. And can you give any tips for dealing with almost empathy overload, where you kind of take other people's struggles and just feel the pain?
Right. Yeah. And again, I go back to the high sensitivity. That's a struggle that I battle with all the time. And I wasn't really good at maintaining that, because I am a very high empathetic individual. And so I could be cranking along in a great mood and somebody sends me a text message saying, oh, I'm having an awful day. I wanted to check in with you because I'm shocker because I'm wearing a pink jacket, but I'm kind of known as the ray of sunshine guy. So people come to me as their oasis, right? And I don't mind that. I love that. I love being able to do things like that. I love being able to speak with and consult with and talk with people and friends and be that person. But I need to also understand that I can only do so much. I can't solve every problem. I can't fix everything. And so I think when we get out of that mindset, because again, as event professionals, we feel that we can do anything, and we are immortal at times, and we can solve any problem, and we can figure it out. And I've always lived by the mantra, there's always a way. But sometimes you have to understand that you can only do so much, because if you overextend yourself, and what I mentioned about, giving out loans and writing checks out of your emotional bank account, your empathy is that factor. That's part of the investment that you're making, is your empathy and your energy and your emotion. And so understand that you have to take care of yourself first. And while that may sound arrogant to other people, to me, it's the most invaluable lesson I've ever learned, because you cannot take care of others. You cannot do for others unless you're taking care of yourself. Second of all, understand that there are times that you can reach out and say, what can I do to support you? And if there's somebody that has been furloughed or has been laid off, just reach out and say, how are you? Even that action itself can do a lot. Maybe you don't need to solve the problem, but maybe you just need to give empathy to it. And when you do that, that actually can do a lot for that individual that needs that lift. And then if you can do something, just keep an eye out. If there's a way that you can say, I have a good network of contacts, I can keep my eyes open, my ears open, because, I've talk with numerous friends that have been laid off or furloughed and are looking because there are challenges. And so I basically tell them like, hey, I'll do all I can and I'll keep your name. And I've got a list of people off to the side of my computer that I know who they are and what they're looking for. And so with any of my interactions, any of the companies that I work with, any of the individuals that I come across with, or if I'm active on LinkedIn and I see something pop up, I'll immediately look at this list and say, oh yeah, Susie needs something from a marketing position in this city. I know these individuals. I'm happy to reach out and enact my network as well for that person. Or I saw something posted that caught my attention that reminded me of this individual that needs some help. So again, take care of yourself first. Don't think you have to solve the problem second. Maybe it's just a matter of reaching out and being a friend. And then third of all, if you have the ability to help network or help support them in some other way, offer to do that with no obligation, but offer to do it because at least you're keeping an eye out and you're serving. Because again, when we serve others, it makes us feel better.
I think that is the last question that we've had come in. And I know we want to be respectful of everybody's time and would love to give everyone back a few minutes so they can stretch, take a minute for themselves. Do you have any final words, Rich?
Again, I just thank you all for being here. And again, I want to be a resource moving forward for you individually. I want to be able to support what you need. Look to me as kind of a larger bank of emotion that I have a larger amount to loan out. So I'm happy to help support whatever you need. And I'm happy to connect with each and every one of you. For those of you that aren't familiar with the LinkedIn QR code, for one, from a presentation standpoint, please tell all your speakers to do this. If they're active on LinkedIn, they should be active on LinkedIn anyway. But if you use your phone in the LinkedIn app, in the search bar, there is 3 squares and an X. And if you click on that, it opens up a scanner. And if you hold the scanner over the QR code, it'll take you to the presenter's profile, and you can connect with them on LinkedIn. This is mine here. So feel free to try it on mine and connect with me, or just view my profile if you want to, that's fine. But again, I can't thank you all enough for taking the time out of your busy schedules to hang out with us today. And again, just please know that I'm a resource for you moving forward.